And then you said once Tim hung up with Dean, Tim was going to go set up surveillance through the apps?
Yeah, I assumed he was, yeah.
You assumed he was. Yesterday you testified that he said he was.
Okay, yeah, correct.
And that sort of raised red flags for you?
No, I don't understand the question.
When Tim told you that, did that raise red flags? Did that make you think that something unusual was going on?
How so?
Well, yesterday you said that made you somewhat concerned. So are you saying that Tim telling you that he might use the Alfred app was not at all concerning to you?
I guess I don't understand in what context. Like,
The context would be the morning of that Friday.
yeah,
Tim is at your house.
yep,
And your testimony was that he had that discussion with Dean, and that after he hung up with Dean, he was going to go use the Alfred app.
yep.
And you indicated that that made you concerned or uneasy.
So I'll say that at that time, I actually offered to give him some phones to set up
Right.
the cameras.
You did.
Yeah,
You didn't say that yesterday.
I wasn't asked that yesterday.
You were asked what you did that in reaction to him saying that.
I'm sorry.
You asked what your reaction was to him saying
Yeah.
that. And you didn't say that you offered to give him phones for this.
That is correct.
So is your testimony now that his question about Jenna didn't make you at all concerned?
I guess, I don't know. Like, not to the point where I thought anything bad was going to happen, no.
Okay, so he wasn't really acting or behaving that unusual then that morning?
No, he was.
Okay, but that didn't confuse you or concern you at all?
I'm not overly concerned.
Not overly concerned, so a little bit concerned.
I was worried about him, yeah.
You were worried about him?
About the way he was acting, correct.
Okay, so not about Jenna or Christine?
At that time, no.
Okay, so you didn't think that he had any designs or intention to do any harm?
He said that he was just going to go up there and check out what the situation was.
Okay, and you didn't think anything of it?
No.
And you didn't think that he thought Jenna was a snitch?
I don't remember.
You don't remember that?
I don't.
Okay. You don't remember what you testified to yesterday about what he asked about Jenna to you?
I said I don't know.
Okay. And what you said maybe about 5 minutes ago?
What?
So he didn't ask you if she was an informant?
Yes, he did.
Oh, okay.
What? I'm confused.
Okay, so let's try to make you not confused. He asked you if you thought she was an informant,
Correct.
and you said that you didn't know,
Right.
and it was something that you thought that he should talk to Dean about.
Correct.
Okay. And when he was going back up to the house, you didn't think that you had any concerns about them being informants or being snitches?
I didn't say that.
Okay. So what did you think he was doing?
To go check out the situation, to find out what was going on up there. Exactly what he said.
Okay. And you thought nothing of it?
I don't know what you mean.
I'm trying to figure out what you were thinking at that time.
I don't know. It was 7 years ago.
Okay. Do you remember talking to the police the day after the weekend of the murders, the Monday, the 30th?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Do you remember speaking to the police in an interview on Monday, the 30th, after the murders?
I don't remember what date it was, but I did speak to the police, yes.
It was the day after you had been up to Meterboro with Dean.
Okay.
I mean, you were at just for reference, you were at Meterboro very early morning of the 29th. And so I'm saying the next day would be Monday, not actually Sunday.
I don't remember a specific day.
Okay. But shortly thereafter.
Yes.
And at that time, you thought that maybe the women...
Well, objection. Not quite sure what counsel's doing at this point.
Just asking him what he thought is not appropriate. You can ask him what happened.
You actually thought that they were possibly going to rob Dean.
What was that?
You thought that the women were possibly going to rob Dean.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember saying that they might be acting in cahoots?
I don't remember that.
Yes.
Provided you a transcript of your interview with the police on the 30th. Would that refresh your recollection?
Possibly.
Now, when I just approach the bench about, I will explain that this transcript, there's one word that's an error. It's a word that's attributed to you. That's not a word that you actually said. Everything else is accurate, okay?
Okay.
So, please read from starting at line 17 through the end of the next page.
And just read it to yourself.
Okay.
Counsel, can I have a page reference, please?
Yeah, so Discovery 2217, it's also page 28 of the transcript of that interview.
Where am I starting again?
You can start line 17.
I'm sorry, one more time with the page reference.
The discovery page is 2217 for the large bundle, but the transcript page starts on 28 of the interview.
Thank you.
Does that refresh your recollection of that interaction on that interview?
Kind of, yeah. I really don't remember that interview at all.
What about this do you remember after reading this?
I remember talking with the police.
And that's it?
I don't remember our conversation at all.
Is that because you were using drugs at the time?
I was.
And alcohol?
I was.
Your Honor, can I read this into the record under recollection, past recollection recorded?
I don't know if the foundation's been met, but if counsel can tell me what lines he's indicating, I'll probably agree.
What lines?
Starting on line 17 through the end of the next page.
Well, I do need you to come up then.
Okay, so in this interview, you're relaying to the police what you said you witnessed Friday morning with Tim.
Okay.
And you said that Tim told you that he was going to go set up a camera. Do you remember that?
I do remember. Do
you remember
I
Tim?
remember Tim saying that to me?
Yes. And do you remember telling that to the police?
I don't remember much of the conversation from the police, honestly. I know that's what it says there, and I know it's recorded, so I must have said it.
Judge, the state has no objection for counsel reading into the record, page 28, lines 17 through 23. The state has no
All right,
objection.
so you can read in lines 17 to 23 on page 28.
So you tell them he's going to set up a camera. He's telling you to see if they're in cahoots to, like, you know, whatever.
So, Judge, I would ask counsel to read from the actual transcript, word for word.
Right, was that all of 17 to 23?
But I think I missed a yeah in that, so I'll
All
restart.
right, why don't you read verbatim lines 17 to 23?
So you tell them, but he's going to set up a camera. The lieutenant responds, yeah. You continue, he's telling me, so, you know, he can see if they're in cahoots to, like, you know, whatever. And then do you remember them asking you if that meant,
This is okay. This is all right.
do you remember them asking you if that meant to dealing Dean's stuff?
Do you remember that question?
I don't remember that question. I remember it from reading it, like I read it just now.
All right,
Judge, can we approach?
sure.
And you don't remember that either?
You don't remember that question from the police, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I'll move on from this and just ask one more question. You don't remember anything else from that interview?
Honestly, I don't.
Okay. Now, on direct, the state asked you about some apps that you and Tim and Christine and Dean would use. Do you remember that?
You're talking about the Google Calendar?
I'm talking about communication apps,
Oh, yes,
like Signal.
yes.
And you yourself have used Signal?
I might have, yeah, probably.
Okay. Yesterday, you testified about delivering money to Christine at the Holy Rosary Bank in Farmington.
Yep, the Holy Rosary Credit Union, correct.
Okay. And that was shortly before the murders?
I don't know what time the murders took place.
Okay. I wasn't asking for any particular detail, but it was Thursday, January 27th.
It was,
And you met Christine there per Dean's instructions?
yes,
And you had asked Tim to drive you there?
yes,
And Tim did drive you there?
correct,
And you testified that Christine's car was in the parking lot?
correct,
And you thought that you saw Christine in the passenger seat?
correct,
And ultimately, it wasn't Christine in the passenger seat?
correct.
Now, but when you thought that it was, you opened the driver's side door?
As I remember, yes,
Okay. And you were going to get in, but that's, as you testified, that's when you saw it wasn't Christine?
correct,
And at that point, you didn't recognize who that was?
correct,
And eventually, Christine came out of the bank?
Correct.
And you testified that you put money in her purse?
Correct.
And you testified that you hugged her when you did that?
I believe I did, yes, correct.
Sorry, Barbara, this will need to project her thumbs up. I will be showing the marked as defendant exhibit AA for ID.
Well, Judge, can we push?
I didn't want to have you guys walk out.
You recognize that car on the left to be Christine's Volvo?
I do.
Okay, you recognize that car to be Tim's CRV?
Yes,
And again, Tim drove you to the Holy Rosary in his CRV.
correct.
And that was you who got out of the passenger seat of the CRV?
I'm assuming I can't see me.
But you drove up in the passenger seat of the CRV?
Yes,
And that's you getting into the driver's seat of the Volvo?
it is.
And I'm just going to not elicit the time as reflecting the time of day, but just for the timestamp for the length of the video. For the record, this shows 16 hours, 47 minutes, and 5 seconds. At that point, that's you getting out of the driver's seat.
Correct.
Right now, you're standing near the door, so that is, again, timestamp not to reflect necessarily the date, but 16:47, and now it says 34.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
approximately 30 seconds, maybe a little bit less.
Okay.
In the driver's seat. And you close the door.
Correct.
At this point, you're standing between the two cars.
I am.
At this point, you open the passenger door to the CRV.
Correct.
And you just close the door again, you remain outside the car.
Correct.
At this point, the timestamp reflects 16 hours, 50 minutes, and 20 seconds. And that's Tim stepping out of the driver's seat at CRV.
Correct.
And you remain on the sidewalk standing in front of the CRV.
Correct.
You're maybe 5 to 10 feet away from each other at this point.
I don't know that.
If you're close to the hood and he's close to the front door.
Okay.
I'm asking these for the record. So it appears you and Tim are standing next to each other at this point.
Correct.
This is hour 16, minute 50, 30 seconds. And it appears that you two are talking to each other.
Correct.
So at this point, you've walked to the back of the CRV between the two cars.
Correct.
Tim still remains standing outside.
Correct.
And now at this point, 1650, 138, you two are standing next to each other.
Correct.
And again, looks like you two are talking to each other.
It does.
And again, just for the record, you two continue to talk to each other and interact with each other.
Seems to be, yeah.
Okay. Now we're looking at timestamp 16:53:21. And you recognize that woman to be Christine?
It looks like Christine, yes.
She just exited the bank?
Yes.
And that's when you just saw what you put money in her purse,
I think so, yeah.
and you didn't actually hug her?
I guess I didn't.
And Tim is still standing out there too, right?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Tim is still standing out there with you and Christine, correct?
Correct.
And we just saw that Tim gave Christine a hug
Yes.
at 16:53:34. Right about at 16:53:32, it looks like pretty much at the same time all three of you get back into your respective seats.
Correct.
And at approximately 16:54, 5 seconds, Christine pulls out and drives away,
Correct.
followed immediately after by you and Tim in the CRV.
Correct.
And then about 7 minutes later, you texted Dean, "All set, brother."
Okay.
Do you remember that, or?
Well, I remember texting him, right, but I don't remember what time it was. Yep.
showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit 17.
Yep.
You looked at this quite a bit yesterday.
I did.
Point you to this, the message.
Yep, 5:02 PM.
It's 5:02 PM, and you say, all set, brother.
Correct.
Now, while I'm up here,
Yep.
you didn't text anything to Christine about this at this point? Kind of a silly question, but...
I don't believe I did.
Okay. And nothing to Tim at that time either?
Well, Tim was with me.
Also a silly question, but that's correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So you were reporting back to Dean?
Letting him know the money was dropped off, yes.
All right. Because Dean wanted updates about everything.
Well, objection as to,
You can lay a foundation for that question.
Okay. As you testified to yesterday,
Yep.
you went to the Holy Rosary Bank at Dean's instructions.
Correct.
And his instructions were to do what we saw in the video, which was to give money to Christine.
Correct.
And in response to that, after you did it, you told him that you had completed that task.
Correct.
So his instructions were to go there and then to tell him that it was completed.
I don't know if that was necessarily, he told me to, or I just told him.
Okay. You
I
probably
don't-
figured that he'd wanted to know that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
he kept,
correct.
He kept a pretty tight grip over his money and who was paying who.
well, objection again, basis of knowledge.
Yeah, if you know.
I don't know, ask the question again, would you please?
Okay.
Yeah.
So by this point, we're in late January of 2017. So you've been selling Dean's drugs for a while at this point.
What's a while?
A couple of weeks, a couple of months.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And Dean wanted updates when you would sell drugs or when you would get money to sell drugs or from selling drugs.
Wasn't, I mean, he would want to know when his money was coming to him, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't updating him daily, if, like, it was, here, get rid of this, give me back the money when it's sold.
Okay. But you had to record everything.
What's that?
You had to record everything?
I had to record everything?
Yeah, you had to record your transactions?
I don't, how do you mean?
You didn't record who you sold to or what money?
We were trying to develop a system, that way, people, like, they would know where everything was going.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were trying to develop a consolidated system through that Google Calendar.
I
right?
was.
That was better and more reliable than the system you had been using.
The system I had before?
Well, there had to be some sort of system that wasn't working, which made you want to establish this new system.
No, the system was established because they spent a lot of time in Florida. So it was, so they knew what was going on up here while, where the money was going, like when the money was in. So when they needed to re-up, I imagine.
Okay. And you said they, meaning Christine and Dean.
Correct.
Being in Florida. But what we just saw there was Christine not in Florida, Christine actually being in New Hampshire.
Right.
And you were telling Dean that you had followed through by giving her money.
I let him know that, yeah, the money was dropped off.
Now, Christine is the one who had more connections to sell drugs in New Hampshire than Dean.
Did he? Did she?
I'm sorry. You have to ask if he would know that.
Do you know who had more drug connections to people who would sell on their behalf? Was it Christine or Dean in New Hampshire?
I do now.
What I say is not testimony. So is that a question? My question to you is that, do you know who had more connections in New Hampshire to sell drugs to?
I do now.
What do you mean
Like,
by?
back then, I didn't know.
Okay, so when you say I do now, you don't mean because I told
No,
you?
no, not because you
Okay.
said so, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who was that?
Well, objection again, basis of knowledge, maybe hearsay.
It's sustained.
How did you come to know that information?
People talking?
Okay. And Tell me who those people were without saying any more information.
Well, but-
relevance.
and the hearsay objection is still sustained.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember.
So the objection was sustained, that means you don't need to answer.
Oh, okay.
You knew that Scott Pelletier was one of Christine's connections?
One of her connections?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Okay.
I thought it was the other way around.
Okay. So she was his connection.
Well, objection, because he just testified.
Overruled. Go ahead.
So when you say it was the other way around, she was his connection,
That's what my understanding was.
that means he was getting drugs from her
Correct.
and he would sell them?
Correct.
And same with Stephen Clough?
I didn't know their relationship, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. Mike DeTroya was the same way?
Yes, correct.
Do you know if Christine's drug connections were for suppliers were in California?
I think I found that out.
Those connections were not from Dean?
I know that now.
Okay. Now, you mentioned a little bit about Dean and Christine's relationship. They were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Correct.
Did you know Christine is someone who didn't like to be alone? Yes or no, it's fine.
What was the question again?
Did you know Christine is somebody who didn't like to be alone?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay. Now, in the relationship between Dean and Christine, they would fight quite a bit.
Yes.
Your term yesterday was that their relationship was pretty volatile.
Yeah, if I said that yesterday, it stands true today, yes.
Okay. And he often told you, well, I think also you said yesterday that he was a huge dick to her.
I said he was a dick, yes.
A dick, okay, not a huge dick.
But I'll agree with that.
Okay. And he often told you how much he hated her.
He would tell me, yeah.
Okay. Showing was been marked as a full exhibit, defendant's exhibit L4. This is a signal message from Dean to you. And can you just read aloud what Dean said to you in that message?
Yep. He said, bro, I'm so fucking sick of that bitch that I have got to get her out of my life ASAP, period.
So fair to say, you were pretty aware of his feelings about her.
I think everybody was.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Tim. In 2016, when you two reconnected, one of your plans was to start an apparel business.
Correct.
That was to create hats.
Well, different types of things, but hats were part of
Okay.
it.
What other types of things?
T-shirts, graphics, like vinyl graphics.
And the division of labor was such that Tim was going to be the designer or the artist.
Correct.
And you knew that Tim was a good artist.
He's a great artist.
But on that point, you knew that he worked at a place in Dover called the Rock Shop.
I thought it was Funky Rock Designs, but
Okay.
the Rock Shop.
It was a place where things were created and made out of rocks.
Yeah, I don't remember the name. I thought it was.
I could be wrong with the name too, but the substance is, it was
Yes,
a place that
he
made things
created
out of
things
rocks.
with rocks.
All right. You never worked at that shop, right?
I did not.
Okay. All right, so back to your apparel business. You two had actually made concrete steps toward putting this business in motion?
I had picked up I had bought some stuff for it, correct.
Okay. And you kept that inventory at your house?
I did,
So that included hats and T-shirts?
correct.
And the hats were white,
They were,
like trucker hats?
yes,
And the front of the hat was, they were blank,
correct,
right? Because you were going to put designs on them?
correct,
And same with the T-shirts?
correct.
All right. And Tim would wear these white hats without actually having any designs on them?
Well, he would draw designs on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
And he would wear he wore at least several of these hats? You said he would draw designs on them, implying he wore multiple of these hats?
Yes, sorry, I couldn't
Okay.
understand what you were saying.
And he frequently wore these hats?
He did.
And it was common to see him wearing these hats?
I mean, he wore, like, I don't know if it was an everyday thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at least he wore them frequently?
Yes,
All right. Now, around the time of the murders, you were unemployed.
I believe so. I don't recall.
Okay.
Did you say unemployed or employed?
Unemployed.
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you remember leaving your job in the late summer of 2016?
I don't remember. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
If I showed you a transcript from the grand jury when you talked about this, might that refresh your recollection?
possibly.
That was pages 10 and 11 of the grand jury transcript. So for the record, this is from your testimony at the grand jury, which was June 16th, 2017.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to start reading line 10
Yep.
and go through line 14 on the next page.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I didn't keep reading.
Take your time.
Yeah.
Does that refresh your recollection of your employment status?
Yeah.
So I think maybe to make it a little easier, you testified in June, again, June of 2017,
Okay.
and at that time you were unemployed.
I don't remember. I said it, yes. I did say it.
Are you saying that this didn't refresh your recollection about whether you were unemployed in June of 2017?
If I'm being honest, I don't remember my employment history that well at all.
Okay, and reading this didn't refresh your recollection?
I remember leaving that job, that I do remember.
Okay, so you remember leaving a job in late summer of 2016?
Yes,
Okay, and that place was called Octagon?
correct,
That was an emergency cleanup company?
correct,
That was like a Serve Pro?
correct,
You would clean up both residential and commercial spaces?
correct.
And again, you left in late summer of 2016 from that job?
Yes,
Well, you said you remember when you left. right? You remember when you left, but you might not remember.
What I'm saying is, if you're having me ask if I remember exactly when I left that job, I'm going to tell you I don't.
Okay. Well, I'm not.
What that says is that I said that I was leaving I left the summer of 16, right? So I'm saying that it has to be true if I said it then. I probably had a better recollection back then than I do now.
Okay. But you do remember what we just talked about, what the company did, correct?
Correct.
And I'm not asking you for approximate dates.
Okay.
Like a specific date and time, but do you remember leaving that job in late summer of 2016?
I remember leaving that job.
Okay, you don't remember the date?
I don't remember the date.
Your Honor, can I enter that portion of the testimony into?
Any objection as to the date? All right, so it'll be entered as to, what, late summer of 2016?
That's correct.
All right, so that'll be taken as testimony.
And one more question about this. In June of 2016, you remained unemployed? Sorry, June of 2017, you had remained unemployed?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. May I also enter that?
Is there any objection to that testimony? All right, you may enter that as well.
So from summer of 2017 to at least, the summer of 2016 to at least the summer of 2017, you were unemployed.
I was probably working, I was not over the table, I'll say that. I might have been working odd jobs under the table.
Okay. One of those under the table odd jobs would be selling drugs.
Correct.
And during that time, you sold more drugs over time?
I did.
Sort of became more prolific in your drug dealing?
Prolific.
That's right.
I don't know.
I'll say you sold more drugs, more quantities of drugs, more often, once you got into 2017 than in late 2016.
Correct.
You know, I think this might be a good natural break.